and thank you for joining us for another Insight Tech Talk. My name is Erin Hazen, and I'm a Client Solutions Executive here at Insight. Excited to talk with all of you today about deciphering common misconceptions about security across Kubernetes. Now, to help us understand more about this topic, I am thrilled to be joined today by Alan Epps, SUSE Partner Sales Engineer. Welcome, Alan.
Hi, nice to be here.
Thanks so much for being here. So, we know that containers are transforming how organizations deploy and use applications. And securing your organization's containerized deployments means looking beyond assumptions and asking the hard questions about Kubernetes security. Are you really doing enough to secure your container environment with baseline out-of-the-box security that comes with Kubernetes? Or do you have the network visibility and protection needed to keep ahead of the ever-growing attack surface of container environments? Now, with Kubernetes, we know that organizations can modernize, replacing their legacy monolithic infrastructures with new, lightweight, efficient, and agile container workloads. This provides developers the foundation to build, automate, and ship applications faster and more reliably than ever before. But as organizations continue to implement Kubernetes, the challenges and risks of security continue to grow. So let's review some of these common misconceptions around container security and what that means for organizations. And then at the end of this conversation, we'll come to have a really good understanding of how SUSE solutions can help. Does that sound good, Alan?
Sounds perfect. Let's go.
Okay, great. So let's get started here, Alan. Does my Kubernetes platform offer adequate container workload protection?
Kubernetes is awesome, don't get me wrong, but it's not a security platform. That's not its core functionality, right? It's an orchestration platform. So while it does have security features in it, it doesn't have everything to protect against exploits and 0 days built in. And it's really made up of the 4 C's, right? You've got the cloud itself, the cluster, the container that lives in the cluster, and then the code that runs on the container. The cloud is completely separate if it's offsite or a hyperscaler, and it's completely out of your control. So they have a nice crunchy outer wrapper around it, but everything inside that is completely up to the company doing the implementation. So that's where the security lives from customer standpoint.
Right. And maybe this is something that people don't really take into account or don't really have a great clear picture of, which is why I'm super excited we're talking about this today, just to open people's eyes a little bit about maybe the gaps that they're missing. So next question for you then is, does combining traditional security tools like firewalls and IDS, IPS with Kubernetes built-in network security adequately protect against network attacks on containers?
It's a good solid start, right? Again, security is always layers in depth. You want each layer to be different than the one above it, and you want each layer to have slightly different features that complement each other. Traditional security tools, as well as the built-in Kubernetes network policies, are blind, unfortunately, to the network attacks, and they don't provide state-of-the-art protection out of the hop, such as application segmentation in the layer 7 and all the rest. So there's more stuff that needs to be done beyond what Kubernetes has built in. And Kubernetes doesn't, by definition, take and differentiate the north-south traffic, i.e. the ingress and egress traffic, versus the east-west traffic between containers. So both streams of communication need to be secured, and it's not something that out of the gate is easily clickable and you're ready to rock kind of change.
Right. So we're getting there. It's kind of close, but I mean, like, close and super far away are pretty big differentiators when you're talking about security. Like, we need to be,
Absolutely.
we need to be right on there, right? So I guess maybe another sort of layer of vulnerability to talk about is like scanning images. So is scanning images, containers, pods, and production nodes for vulnerabilities enough?
No, I mean, it's critical, it's crucial, it's absolutely best practice. But again, if you're not understanding what that traffic looks like in and out, as well as back and forth, that's where the largest vulnerability is, because again, that's going to be your attack vector, right? People in general aren't hacking your source code, they're actually hacking your network coming in, or once they're inside. So while the traditional tools are there, they don't cover the state-of-the-art protections you really, really need.
And bad actors, they probably know this, right?
Absolutely.
They
And
know this.
And the 0 day thing is real, right? Without understanding how your network functions, if somebody compromises your network with a 0 day, how do you know, right? You need additional tools beyond what's built in.
Totally. No, this makes total sense for sure. And it's important that we know this so that we can get ahead of it and our organizations can be prepared. So I guess maybe one more question around just sort of like what is enough is by using a public cloud provider, are containers secure enough? Kind of a tricky one.
Not really, right? Because if you read their terms and conditions, all the public cloud providers say you're responsible for your own security,
Right.
right?
Right.
Again, they provide that crunchy outer wrapper, but they don't deal with the internals at all. So the portion that's needed to be secured by the company is those inner three C's that I talked about, right?
Right.
The code piece is kind of separate. That's not really the subject of this because that's an entire whole different school of how to write secure code. But the containers themselves and the nodes that they run on, that is definitely the place that needs additional work. And it's that portion is something that lives in a mindset specific within the company, right? As you're deploying that infrastructure, that's where you need to add that security.
And I wonder, so maybe just to go off script a tiny bit here, Alan, like how often do you see clients who think that they have enough and it's just because they have not had that, purview into the deeper layers?
Regularly, right? And it's like everything in security, it's a cost. And until you're smacked with it, most companies are like, well, I've taken basic steps, but they don't really go all the way through. And that's why we find out about these hacks after the fact, right? Whether
Right.
the credit card industry or the government or where have you, every business, regardless of its structure, has these challenges, and every business always needs more security than they think they do.
I love that you are giving us like the windshield view and not that rear view mirror view, right? Because we all have that hindsight 2020 thing where we're like, we shoulda, woulda, but now we're really taking the steps to make sure that organizations are prepared. So speaking of that, what tools are available from SUSE to help technology leaders and their teams ensure that they are equipped to tackle these challenges around container security with confidence?
So the biggest tool that we've got is a tool called NeuVector. It offers a view of that north-south traffic as well as east-west, and it takes that traffic as the source of truth when it builds the rule set, right? So it's not the rules that Susie and Larry and Tina and Gary remember that they need to implement. It actually looks at what the network traffic's doing and then builds its rule set based off of that. As a consequence, it is truly zero trust. There's no I have to assume that this person knows what they're talking about. It is totally based off of what it sees. And because of that, we're enabling organizations to stay agile. They can continue to modify their code as they need. NeuVector will modify itself based on the patterns it's supposed to see when you turn it into training mode, but it'll also change itself based on the patterns it actually sees, not just what you assume, but what it really sees. And then by instantiating those policies into the code as it's deployed, it stays secure moving forward. It's the most comprehensive offering on the market today for Kubernetes. It's actually 100% open source. There's patented technology, and we open source the patents. So it's available to people to understand how it works. It's available to people to come down and pull it down. But everything we do is community driven. So as people find new needs and as people have new wants, they feed that back into the community that then gets rolled back into the tool.
I really love that because I feel like, sort of that open source conversational relationship that you're having with developers is only going to allow us to better understand the needs and better develop and better iterate, right?
Absolutely. That's the entire Linux world way, right? Is
Yeah.
everybody learns new, feeds back in, open sources everything so additional people can build off it because we're all stronger together. We all rise up together.
Totally. And no one can defeat sort of these security challenges alone. I feel like this has to be something that everybody's working on together, right? And so the NeuVector solution from SUSE is something that would be all encompassing and allow for that, correct?
Yes, as long as it's part of that layered in-depth process, right?
Yeah.
Because security is always going to be that series of layers, and NeuVector is an additional layer. The big key is it's doing something that no other tool out there does, which is securing and understanding that traffic east, west, north, south without relying on somebody's memory, but actually on the traffic flow that's really, truly happening.
And what a relief, because then you don't have to rely, like you said, on somebody with that knowledge and the way that the industry is with people moving and shifting. You want to make sure your organization is always secure, correct?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. This has been so interesting to learn, Alan, and an exceptional learning opportunity for all of our viewers, bringing awareness and sharing solutions for these potential security gaps that our viewers and organizations might need to look into. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you for the time, Aaron. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your insights today, Alan. This has been an exceptional learning opportunity. And thank you for bringing awareness and sharing solutions for potential security gaps that our viewers may need to look into. And you can certainly learn more about the solutions available from SUSE by visiting Insight.com. And you can find a link to the SUSE partner page in today's show notes. And while you're there, make sure that you subscribe to our digital magazine, The Tech Journal, where you will find more inspiration and insights on the future of business and technology. My name is Erin Hazen, and on behalf of Alan and I and Insight, thank you so much for your time today.